You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to The Spectral Zone with host Kaz Rooney.
Hello everybody and welcome to Spectral on Parasearch Radio UK. I'm Kerrys Journey and tonight I am joined by Kerry Greenaway.
Oh dear, yeah, good evening.
How are you tonight, Kerry?
Oh, I'm surviving, I think is where we're going with that. I'm surviving.
Right, well, I want to turn the tables on you a little bit.
Okay.
Because you're really good at throwing questions at everybody else. But I want you to answer some questions.
Okay. I'm so nervous. I'm like really nervous about this. I'm normally the one in the driving seat.
Exactly what I mean. This is not payback for you making me do that interview after each drive, it isn't, I promise.
Okay, okay.
Right, I want to start at the beginning.
Right.
How did you come to be in the paranormal field?
Okay, well, I was working spiritually with crystals and minerals, and I met Kerry Ann at a spirit fair, Kerry Ann Carter, who used to do the Seventh Sanctum show for us. Mm-hmm. And I got talking to her, and that was sort of like where I started, because she was into the paranormal, and I wasn't really. I was just into, spiritual workings and stuff. And it was actually her who brought me into the paranormal field, who said, I've seen what you do, and I'd love to use that concept in the field to see if it actually has an impact, whether it makes a difference in regards to communication in the paranormal field. So I was like, well, that's great, but I only get every other weekend because I'm a single mum. So she was like, yeah, no problem, come out when you can. And I was like, okay. And that's sort of where it started from. And I started with her team, and she gave me the freedom to do what I do in the field. And that's where my journey started.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, you've been working with crystals for quite a while. I mean, crystals is your thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my main focus of everything. I mean, I run a business selling crystals and minerals, but I also work in a lot of different ways with crystals and manifestation grids and, working on an empowerment front for people and mental and emotional well-being, not physical healing. I won't touch physical healing, but I can do mental and emotional and manifestation techniques and talk people through the best way to use crystals in their life and that sort of thing. So I was doing that anyway, and that's my main focus. But the paranormal is kind of running side by side with that now. I mean, I do an awful lot of work now. It's crossing over a lot more than I ever originally thought. Going back to the beginning, I never ever thought how this journey would have taken me, and it has been an amazing, absolutely fantastic journey, and I've had some amazing opportunities, and I've learnt so much as well about energies and how they interact, and it's just been absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that's sort of the crossover is actually a lot bigger than you think in regards to crystals and minerals and the paranormal and, you know, energies you're going to come across and the personal energies you're working with whilst you're out in the field and stuff like that. It's absolutely incredible. And so I still do my spiritual stuff. And when I'm out in the field, I still work in a very spiritual way. I'm not a tech girl. I've said that on loads of shows. When I'm talking tech, I'm like, feel like an idiot sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Because I have no idea how tech works. So, so when I'm actually out in the field, I work in a really spiritual way, and I obviously use tools. So, you know, crystals and minerals, and I use all sorts of things in the field in ways that other people don't or haven't used them. And we're finding that it has an impact. It does have an energetic impact on your investigations. So that's now led me down more, I kind of want to say scientific route. So I'm looking at more things like, you know what I mean? I'm looking more into frequencies and stuff like that, which is, oh my God, can be so boring because it's levels that I'm not trained to be at, like, you know, like physicists and scientists. So I spend some nights reading stuff about like quantum physics, and it's like walking through mud sometimes, but it's work in progress. I thought this is the only way I can say it. It's a work in progress. And I'm really coming through to the understanding now that frequency and vibration is so important in regards to the paranormal. Now, crystals, as we know, have energy and frequency and vibration. And if you use those in conjunction with the environmental energy and frequency, and if you get it right, you can actually, you know, create an impact. And it is, as I say, it's a work in progress. I'm learning stuff new every day. And some of the amazing people I've spoken to as well over the last couple of years doing radio has been an education in itself, because they've opened my mind to different ways of looking at how I work as well. So, so sort of that's where it's all started.
See, I kind of like yourself. I like the way that when you're doing investigations, you're meeting different people and you're doing different things. Yeah. And you're learning things from other people. I do like that.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, we're doing a show Friday and we're having a look back. And it is, when I look back at the last year and some of the people that we've spoken to or other presenters have spoken to that I've listened to, I just think, oh my God, how blessed are we? Do you know what I mean? We have such an amazing forum and we have such an amazing network of people that we've worked with and talked to and had opportunities with. And not just, I mean, I don't just do Parasearch, I do Paramania as well with Jay and Teresa. And oh my goodness me, absolutely, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. And I get to work with I'm actually working really closely with certain people in the field that I never ever thought I would work closely with. And I'm hoping that I'm able to come up to the task, do you know what I mean? Be good enough in my knowledge to help progress studies and data, as I keep being told. Oh, dear.
But this is the thing, I mean, yes, you're learning from other people, but I mean, you share a lot of knowledge as well.
I like to hope so.
You do, actually.
Oh, thank you.
What I find is quite interesting is you're quite, what if I'm the right word for this? Inquisitive. You're kind of, it's like if you're going to research a subject, you'll spend the whole week on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once I get very focused on an angle. But I'm very butterfly-y, because what will happen is I'll get really focused, but that will take me off into lots of different avenues. So a lot of what I know gets condensed down. Do you know what I mean? Because then I go, oh, actually, is that relevant to what we're talking about? Because you only have an hour. Do you know what I mean? You only have that snapshot of that topic. I mean, how many times, Kaz, have we gone, oh God, we've got to revisit that because we missed out so much, or we didn't feel we did it justice, or you know what I mean? Because you're trying to cram so much down into like just an hour. And
Yeah.
You know, and say I go off into lots of different avenues. But like, I mean, it's that's one thing I found is it's crazy the avenues that this world of ours, whether it be crystal or paranormal, and the same because I have a lot of crossovers in regards to the two. It's amazing the avenues it's taken me down. So many different topics I've researched, and I've got about 100 notebooks because I tell you, this drives. I work quite closely with Ashley Nibb, as you know, and he is in complete despair. And one thing he said is, "I'm going to teach you how to organise your research," because he came round one day and he saw my notebook stack, and that was only a portion of them, and he was like, "Is that your research work?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Okay. So if you've got one book for one thing, one book for... No, it's all muddled in. So there'll be crystal, business, paranormal, private study work. There'll be things that I've looked into for shows. There'll be guest synopsises. And, it's all in like client synopsises when I've been talking somebody through and I've just writing notes and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like all in one.
Yeah,
all in
I'm
one
sure if
notebook.
you looked in there, you'd probably find your order for the Chinese takeaway and everything else in there.
Yeah, probably, where I've just scrawled it down. Yeah, I've probably scrawled it down and just needed a random piece of paper. Yeah, you're probably right. I didn't let him look in them because I think he would be horrified, quite frankly. Because also, if something comes at me, if I'm like doing housework or something, and you know what it's like when you're doing housework, you can... It's almost like an active meditation sometimes, isn't it? Because your hands and your body's busy, but your mind's sort of like roaming. And then I'll literally run to my desk, scroll it down, and then go back to what I was doing. And when my scroll, even my kids can't read my scroll. I have a very slanty handwriting anyway, and they can't. when I'm like proper, just like rushing, it's completely incomprehensible to most people. But I've actually learned how to, believe it or not, I have actually learned in this last year a lot more about how to do your research and keep focused on what you're trying to achieve out of your research. That's one thing I have found because, as I say, I can go off like a butterfly and go down avenues that are not necessarily important at that particular moment. And I find that sometimes... time wasting, and I don't get a lot of time. Do you know what I mean?
I know. You're very busy.
I'm a really busy girl. I don't get an awful lot of time. So, it's all good fun.
What was your very first paranormal investigation?
Oh, my goodness me. Where did we go to very first one? I think we actually went to Fort Redoubt, you know.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was the first one I did with Kerry Ann.
Yeah.
We did quite a lot of like little private ones that we can't really talk about.
Yeah.
Like little people have called us in and sort of done stuff like that, but not proper cases. We're just going in and advising, and that would be between myself and Kerry Ann. And then I think the first actual investigation I went on, I think, was Fort Redoubt. Yeah, I think it was. Oh my God, I'm going back. That was a couple of years ago. And how was it? It was good. As I say, I was allowed the freedom to do what I wanted, how I wanted to work, how she wanted me to work in the field, which is, if you can get on a team that encompasses what you do, that is fantastic. Kerry Ann is absolutely an amazing leader of a paranormal team. She is absolutely fantastic at that. She really underestimates herself in that way because what she does is she allows you to work in the way you want to work, but at the right time as well. So while they're all setting up kit, she was letting me go off and do what I do, and setting up my grids and doing the ritual things and doing that sort of thing, and then pulling everybody back. It's all set up, and then going on and investigating and doing it like we would. So I mean, I had no experience in regards to normal investigating. Just with tech. Before that, I mean, I'd gone on a public investigation for my 40th birthday. My friends bought me one because I loved Most Haunted, so they were like, "Yeah, let's get one of them," and they all came with me, and it was a jolly. Do you know what I mean? It was with a team, and we went to you know, it was just like a public paid investigation. I loved it, and I got the bug. But obviously my friends did it because they know it's something that I wanted to do. They didn't want to do it every week.
Yeah.
You know, so when Kerry Ann came up with that opportunity, I snatched the hand off. I tell you, I was like, yeah, I'm there. I'm in.
But that's the thing, it's kind of, once you start, I don't know if you've actually found this, but I've actually been on investigations before, came home, and you've been a bit tired. Mm-hmm. And then about an hour later, you're thinking, I've got to go investigating again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the early days of investigating, it was a huge part of my spiritual journey in the early days, because there was a lot of people talk in the spiritual field. This is one thing I will say, where the crossover is really important, is in the spiritual field, there's a lot of concepts, right? Like boundaries and protection and, attachments and all that sort of thing. But you learn really quickly that you can't just talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And that is an incredibly important concept. Everyone goes, oh, well, I'm wearing my crystal. That's not enough. Do you know what I mean? The crystal's going to do its job, but you have to reinforce that with your intention. And if you don't do that, I mean, a couple of times I brought spirits home with me, not horrible ones, not nasty ones, but just they hadn't finished telling me their story. So they were like, oh, I'm going to carry on talking to her, and I was stood there. I mean, one night, I'll tell you a story. Sitting in bed one night, and we'd just done a local one. We'd just been out and done a little local one. It was like we'd all got together and was like, oh, what should we do? I know, let's just go out, grab a couple of K2s and voice recorders and stuff. And we'd done a local area. And we got back, and I was sitting there in bed reading a book because, you know, that's what I was doing. And I looked up, and there was this spirit stood at the end of my bed. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, sorry. Oh, my, I must be tired. That's all I can say because I'm popping swear words out. I was like, oh, for goodness sakes, what the hell? What are you doing here? Anyway, he went, and then for 2 or 3 days afterwards, randomly, he weren't there all the time, but randomly I'd see this spirit. And I'd be like, oh, my God, what am I supposed to do with you? I can't get to the location to take you back. So I don't want to banish you because you're not nasty. You're just interested, you know. And so I ended up, I can walk to like a local boatyard.
Yeah.
So I took him back there. And once he got there, he was quite happy. Off he went. Well, see you later. Do you know what I mean? It was really bizarre. But little things like that were happening. And so I can understand why people, you know, and paranormal hangover, that was another thing I found. Was like, I'd been on a really, really intensive investigation. It had got really intense. And I woke up, well, I couldn't sleep. And then I woke up and I felt awful. Like real, proper, like I'd been out clubbing all night, you know. Body was tired, head was tired, but my brain wouldn't switch off. And I felt really rough. Anyway, I didn't recognise it for what it was because I'd never had it before, because it was to say these were the very early investigation days. Yeah. And it led me down that path to go, okay, so I'm feeling this. Why am I feeling this? It's an energy hangover. It's a what we call paranormal hangovers. And I actually wrote a blog on it because I felt it was so important to address, because it was another one of those where, like, you come home, you have a glass of water, you eat something, you ground yourself, you do all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Then you go to sleep. But the next day, the day after, the night before, you can do stuff about that. You know what I mean? And there is a reason why you get that paranormal hangover. So it's you know, it was a journey of discovery on the spiritual front as much as on learning about the paranormal and that side of things. So it's been interesting, an interesting little journey of mine.
That's the thing. I mean, for people that don't investigate, they don't actually realise, like you said, we're using energy, and it's different energy, different vibrations, you're doing different things. They don't understand the energy you're actually using up. Yeah. And then the next day, you're practically dead.
Yeah.
You're just so tired. and you just don't want to do anything, what I tend to find is if I do an investigation, I mean, the little ones, yes, I was coming back and going, oh, I want to go back out again. But as I started doing other ones and bringing people with me, when I come home from an investigation, I really do have to rest the next day.
Yeah.
So I tend to make sure there's nothing that has to be done the next day so that I've got that chance to rest up.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just physical tiredness we're talking about. It's a spiritual and a psychic tiredness that you're feeling because, psychic energy is actually, it works in exactly the same way as a muscle. So if you're only going out like once a month, you imagine doing an intense workout, physically, a physical intense workout once a month, you're going to feel it the next day.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
You're going to feel it.
Physically, you're going to feel it the next day. It's no different in regards to psychic. So, psychic energy working in that way. And to be fair, it was only once I got the crystals out from the investigation, then I obviously do a cleanse and, a cleanse and recharge on the crystals that I've used from the night before, which takes forever because I take so many. Because I never know what I'm going to need when I'm there, so I have to take a nice range. I've actually managed to work a little bit more on remote viewing to know what I'm going to need now. So it's getting better. I'm going to kill my children in a minute. They're up there shouting at the Xbox. And so
my son's doing the same.
I don't know what they're doing up there, but it sounds like they're killing somebody. So when I actually got them out, I actually reworked that and reworked those grids, and then I found my energy started to rebalance itself because it's getting that balance back again within yourself as well. And this is why I say a lot of people talk the talk but don't walk the walk, and we open and we close. Everyone goes, of course I do that. Are you doing it properly? Do you know what I mean? Are you taking the right measures on a physical, spiritual, mental and emotional front? It's a four-way street, not just a one thing. It's not just a one thing, it's a four-way street, and you have to do it for yourself. And you'll find that your paranormal experiences get so much better, and the day after isn't quite so intense. Oh my God, the dog's on a wander and everything now.
What I've actually found is, I mean, when I've went along to locations, if I'm there and I'm running it, I will go around and I will check with everybody that they have tried to protect themselves as much as they can. If they haven't, everyone, I don't care if you've done it or not, everyone's getting in the circle and we're all doing it together, because I don't want anybody leaving an investigation like you taking something back with them.
Yeah. And it does happen occasionally.
And people don't believe that. I think people actually think that's a myth, but it can happen.
Mm.
It can happen very easily.
Yeah, and I'm not talking like a demon attachment or a possession or anything stupid like that. Literally, just they're still with you. You know what I mean? They come with you. And it's half the time it's only because they found someone that's going to listen to them. So they then go, oh, I found someone who's going to listen to me, so I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, when you go investigating, like you said, you like working with your crystals and you like working spiritually.
Yeah.
I actually have a take on this because, as I've spouted, I don't know how many times, I do have a black tourmaline bracelet that I take. I do have my crystals that I take. And I actually went along, I was in such a hurry, I left the house without anything. Without absolutely anything on me.
Yeah.
But I didn't even realise until we got there, everything was going wrong, and I thought, why is everything going wrong? And then I kind of went, oh, I've got nothing with me. I literally went, oh, I've got nothing. I literally didn't pick anything up.
Yeah. I've done 2 investigations where we haven't used crystals. One of those was part of an experiment with Kerry Ann's team. Again, we went back to the same location, readout for the first investigation. We used crystals. The second we didn't, because we wanted to see if it did have an effect. So yes, you get quiet nights in the paranormal. You can't take that as read that they had an effect. Yeah. But it was really strange how we had a lot quieter night on the night that we didn't use crystals. And I felt naked. I felt awful. I didn't know what to do with myself.
We actually ended up lost in a wood. This is what happened with me. We ended up lost in a wood with me saying, no, we're going the wrong way. No, it's fine. we're fine. No, we're not, we're going the wrong way. And I said this for about 10 minutes and we just carried on until eventually the two guys I was with, one ran ahead. And he said, stay here, I'll run ahead and then I'll come back, I'll shout on you when I found it. And he ran ahead, came running back down shouting, turn around, we're going the wrong way. And I thought, I said that 10 minutes ago.
I love it when your instincts are on par and everybody else is going, no, it's this way. And you're like, no, I know it's this way, but, don't listen to me then. Learn from your mistakes.
So when you do investigations, you're relying on your, spiritual tools as well as your crystals.
Yeah.
I mean, instinct plays a big part in it, doesn't it?
Huge. Listen to... We've said many, many times that your body is the number one tool in the paranormal field. You will acknowledge changes in the environment before you even realise it on a mental front, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you know when that energy has changed, and that you don't have to be psychic or sensitive, or you know the amount of times you look at footage and somebody has turned their head just before they've caught something as like an EVP or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because your body is picking up those environmental changes, and that is really, really key. So when you're working in the field on a spiritual front, you really need to be in tune with your own body. And this is why we say, this is one of the reasons why we say that if you're going through some form of trauma or emotional upset or anxiety or depression or even a medical condition that can affect your mental well-being, you shouldn't really be out in the field doing it unless you've got a real firm control of it, because it can have an effect. Yeah, it can have an effect. And this is why we say this. Not because we're going, well, if you're not mentally fit, you're not supposed to be in the field. There's an actual reason for that. You know what I mean? There is this reason for it. You can do things about it, but you really have to be strong with yourself. And that's another thing. Real self-awareness is incredibly important when you're working in the paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
I went out on investigation a few weeks ago, and I wasn't allowed to take crystals either. And I had a bit of a hard time, something had happened the day before, and I really weren't myself. And I was aware of it. I acknowledged it. I knew I wasn't able to work in the way I was, so I went along to the investigation knowing my mindset.
Yeah.
But I also knew how the focus of the investigation was going to be. It was very tech-based, and it was a preliminary investigation, so I wasn't going to be working extensively in a spiritual way. Yeah. So I still went to the investigation. After the investigation, oh my God, I felt awful because I knew I hadn't worked to my best of my ability on that investigation. I knew my own personal circumstance had affected how I was working on that night.
Yeah.
And I didn't like myself for that, because I knew I could do better. I knew I was better than that. And I felt like I'd let myself down. So it then sort of for a couple of days, I sort of mentally beat myself up about that. Yeah. But having said that, I then got to the logic of I knew where I was at. I knew the controls I'd put in place. I wasn't able to work in the way I normally work anyway. So I was out of my comfort zone because it was tech. Me and tech. Where does this plug go? Type thing. And so those are things you have to consider. You have to consider those things when you are investigating. It's not just pick up your kit and go. It isn't just that. If you are really serious about the paranormal, which I am, I mean, as I say, I mean, when I very first got interested in the paranormal, when I was watching the TV programs and that, of course I wanted the ghost hunting experience. Now, it's evolved. I now take the field incredibly seriously, and I don't mind going on a ghost hunt, don't get me wrong. I'm still quite happy to go out and do what everybody does. But I end up finding myself, a bit like if I go to a party, I end up in the kitchen counselling people. I kind of end up finding myself in the hub room, talking people through concepts. Do you know what I mean? And theories and sharing knowledge, almost like teacher role than I do, which is quite why I like hosting, because I like giving people that experience and knowledge rather than actually trying to elicit that response. But when I do private, like my own private investigations, that's when I work how I work in the field.
Well, see, there's the thing. I mean, you've just acknowledged, that's the first I've actually heard you acknowledge, that you do teach other people.
I
do share that knowledge.
Oh,
you
God,
go,
yeah.
Maybe. I asked you earlier and you went, well, maybe, kind of, but you are sharing knowledge with other people. It's like other people we meet when we go out. They're sharing knowledge with us as well.
Yeah.
You're just doing it on a bigger scale.
Yeah,
really.
I kind of like to hope so. The thing is, I do this with my spiritual work as well. Like when I have a client come round, I don't often take my business offline. I very rarely go into events. You'll only hear me do like 5 or 6 a year.
Yeah.
Like spirit fairs and stuff like that. I don't very rarely get out with my crystals. I like to do one-on-one appointments. Do you know what I mean? Where I can really get to grips with what needs somebody's got and how, and the best crystal for that. And that could be like a humble tumble, a £1 tumble or a pouch or a bigger piece, depending on what they want to do and how they want to work. Because as you know, so many different ways of working. There are so many different crystals and minerals. They've all got different meanings. And sometimes it's a combo of crystals that work better than anything else. So I much prefer a one-on-one scenario. When you're at a fair, you can't always expend that time and that energy. It's just a selling zone, basically. And I mean, to God, I get all my regulars come along and go, "Oh, Kerry, hi, how are you?" But for new people, I find it quite difficult because I like to. It's not just like, "Oh, well, what does that one do then?" Yeah. Oh, I can tell you what it does, but is it actually going to be any good for you? Because that's actually more what's important here. Do you know what I mean? What is it you're trying to achieve with that crystal? Because I could sell you that crystal, but that may not necessarily be the one you need. And let me guide you to that. You know what I mean? If you're drawn to it, usually it's the one that you're not drawn to that's the one you actually need, because it's resonating, that it's causing that off vibration. And if you work with that crystal, it'll bring you in line to make you work in the way you need to work to heal that issue. Do you know what I mean? That's one goes, "I'll go to the one you're drawn to." Yes, to a point. But if you've got an underlying issue, and that's another thing people don't always understand, is there's always an underlying issue. There's, you go, "Oh, I'm not having a lot of luck at the moment." Okay, well, let's look at that. Why are you not having a lot of luck? And that's one thing I found in the paranormal. I think that's what's led me down this road as far as it has so far, and hopefully in the future as well, is the why. Yeah. Always look for that underlying issue. Why is that spirit haunting there? Why are they still attached to that place? Why are they causing this activity? From a spiritual front, I'm talking here. Why is somebody having that response to something? There's always that why. Or why are we getting that reading on the K2 meter or the EMF reader or the bleepy, buzzy, twangy thing? Do you know what I mean? Why are we getting that?
I think it means spirit box.
Thank you. See, tech terms. Carl Hutchinson is probably crying into his JD and Coke at the moment. But, why? There's always that why. I mean, we had an anomaly come up the other day. I've talked about this in a show I did a little while ago. An anomaly around a specific window. Well, spiritually, I can go, wow, there's a spirit stood there. You know what I mean? That's why we had that anomaly. And it created an EMF fluctuation, and that's why, and not go any further with that. No, I can't do that. I have to go, right, okay, well, that's one possibility, a more remote possibility, but it's a possibility. I know what I felt at the time, but it's a possibility. But let's look into what's in that window that could have caused that anomaly. I mean, we did all the usual checks on the night regarding, electricity and pylons and lights and security systems and all that sort of stuff on the night. And there was no logical explanation for it there and then on site. But then I go, okay, well, there's magnesium and lead in windows. Could that have been what caused the anomaly? Particularly with the heat fluctuations that were going on throughout the evening. because it was so cold. We had to keep putting the heating on for a while. So the constant heating and cooling because it was freezing, absolutely freezing.
Yeah.
I hate cold investigations. I hate
But
them
a
with
lot
a
of them are
vengeance.
cold. One that I recently done, I mean, I did already say to you, it was actually warmer outside the building than it was inside the building.
I know. When you're in a damp, dark, cold cellar, you know, it's like...
You know, it wasn't even like that. The whole house was absolutely freezing. You walked into the place and you just started chittering. It wasn't even a house. I don't know why I said house. But you walked in and you just started chittering. But when we went outside for a break, we were absolutely fine. We were all sitting there chatting away, quite happy.
It's sometimes the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I've done other investigations where I'm stripped down to shorts and a tee. You know what I mean? Because it is so hot. You know, where like on a hot summer's night, I love those nights. You get bitten to buggery by mosquitoes, though. Particularly on external investigations. Jungle juice comes in very handy on those, I've found.
Yeah.
Although you can't then count smells because it smells. But yeah, no, we've had some really interesting things. And as I say, I mean, I spent a night looking into window manufacturer in that particular. I didn't come up with any specific logical explanations, but I now have a deeper understanding of window manufacture and how they made glass back in the day. Oh my God, but it's those things that are really important.
You get so focused on it and you go so deep into it.
Yeah. I mean, these are just two things I've looked at recently. This is nothing to do with previous things that I've looked into as well, you know. I've climbed trees in the middle of the night because someone was going, oh, this is the hanging tree. And if you look up there, with their torch shining up, you can see the rub marks on the tree. And I'm thinking, I can't see any. I'm climbing a tree to check. I'm up there. I'm up there looking at things like that. Do you know what I mean? Is that right? Is that wrong? You know? And, mad things like that. God, you wouldn't think I am the age I am.
From a spiritual point of view, don't you ever just go with your first instinct on it, your first gut instinct? Yeah.
If I'm working in the field, the first thing I'll always go for is what I'm getting at that particular time.
Yeah.
First off, and that's what I'll work with. And then it'll be after the event, I will then go, right, okay, could there have been, particularly if we've had something that's backed up by tech, like I say, like the EMF fluctuation at that time. There was something going on spiritually at that time. But you also then go away and go, okay, I know what I felt at that time, but all that is a personal experience. Nobody else knows what I'm experiencing because they're not seeing inside my head or feeling what I'm feeling. So was there a logical explanation? And it's a double-edged sword.
I know, I understand.
It's a real double-edged sword because on one hand you're working spiritually and you know what you're getting and you know where you're at with it. And then you've got the other side of you that's got your logical, reasonable brain going, yeah, but hold on a second, that doesn't prove that.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to bridge that gap.
I know. Because, I mean, what I find interesting is the amount of people with personal experiences. Unless you're in a group and they're experiencing the same thing, they're not going to understand what that's about.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're in a group and it's all... One thing I do like to do, which might sound a bit strange, but handing out bits of paper and pens.
Yeah.
And people can write things down. People can note down times, they can note down things. They don't need to necessarily share it with me or anybody else, but it's just for them to keep a record of things themselves.
That's one thing that doesn't get done enough in regards to proper investigations.
Yeah. Is
that logging, that detail, that data, and what you're experiencing at that time and at that point. Yeah. I mean, I do what I class it as like an energy scan. So when I first walk into a location, I'll walk around and I'll be like ignoring everybody generally and doing my thing. Yeah. And then I will note down where I felt the energy spikes, where I felt the grids needed to be built, what symbolism came into my head while I was at that particular point of energy, how it felt. all that sort of thing. And then I'll do that 3 or 4 times throughout an evening. You know what I mean? Scan the energy levels in whatever location I'm in. And then if I need to change the grids or I need to work in a different way, then I can, because I keep doing that energy scan throughout the evening. That, in a funny kind of way, it's a spiritual version of what you would do with tech. Do you know what I mean? Because you'd go around with your baseline tests to start with, and then you sort of work off your baseline tests. So, and you should do that several times throughout the evening. Your baseline test, it shouldn't be just done once. It should be done throughout the evening. And as well as then doing your investigation in between. But I do that on an energy level when I'm working spiritually. So and again, it's important to log it, because then you can look at your databases and maybe, just maybe, there might be a correlation. You don't know.
Exactly.
You honestly don't know if there's a correlation or not, unless you've got the data logs. I mean, the famous Harry Price, one of his main tools in his toolbox was a notepad and a pen.
Yeah.
Just something really simple. Notepad and a pen. Write it all down. Log times.
What else is really handy? The old-fashioned watches used to get with your little nightlight on them.
Yeah.
They're really handy to have.
Yeah, even things like compasses and stuff like that. Yeah. They're really important.
Really handy,
and a lot of people don't have them. They'll have all the latest gadget that's out that's cost them £5,000. Do you know what I mean? But they won't have the basic kit. And I can't understand. Use it all. Use it all. Don't limit yourself. You know what I mean?
Do you know what? In a certain shop, I won't say what shop, but it's a pound shop, you can go in and they do these little watches. They cost £1. The 24-hour watch. And you press it and it flashes up bright red on a black screen. Everybody should get one of them. They're really handy to have.
Just things like that are really important, particularly if you're serious about it. I mean, when I go ghost hunting, I don't do any of that. I literally just go and play with the tech and, as I say, when I'm on public.
I find that I hand out my tech more than I use my tech.
Yeah.
I will use the cameras to record things. But generally, you'd find that people walk in and go, "Oh, I've always wanted to try a spirit box." And I go, "Here you go."
Yeah, just have a go then. Let's have a go then. Because it's your experience here. I mean, I obviously show them a lot of spiritual techniques as well. Just things like, the human pendulum and, just normal pendulum work. I tend to end up doing workshops, like pendulum workshops and, human pendulums. And
I take dowsing rods, I take pendulums.
Exactly,
I take
dowsing
crystals.
Rods. Yeah, crystal ball scrying, stuff like that. You know what I mean? To give them a go at that spiritual side of things as well as the ghost hunting experience, because you don't know. I mean, I had one lady, she got really into it. She was like trying to almost like monopolise my time because she got so into it. It was fantastic. I love that when someone really grasps the concept and then you really start getting into a conversation about it, and then you start talking about ideometer and, the theory behind it, not just, if you hold your pendulum up, it's going to swing one way for yes, one way for no, and that's, going to give you an answer. Why does that do that? You know what I mean? And when someone questions that I find fascinating. I love that. I love that side of it because it brings psychology into it, and it brings, so many other concepts. And then they go, oh, never thought of it like that. And you go, I'm not saying it's not spirit contact. What I'm saying is it's the way your body is translating those messages coming through to you.
Yeah.
In the same way, I know you hate the Ouija board. I know you hate the Ouija board.
It's not that I hate the Ouija board. It's just for some reason I don't trust it. I won't try it because I feel it's too easily manipulated by people as well.
But again, it's down to the ideometer, which is basically the tiny little fluctuations in your own body is actually causing the planchette to move or the pendulum to move or, your body to move if you're doing a human pendulum. But take it a step further. If you're getting extreme responses, then is that tiny little movements coming from a body? I don't know. It could be.
It's something I wanted to ask you about. It's only ever happened to me twice.
Okay.
And funnily enough, it was two completely opposite locations. One was in Liverpool, one was in Nottingham. And the funny thing was, I was with an empath and a sensitive at the same time on both of these, walking into these two locations. And it's almost like a glass brick wall is slammed in front of you and you're not allowed to go any further. Has that ever happened?
Yeah.
How have you handled that?
Well, that is usually when you get something like a block, which is effectively what it is. It's like an energy block. It's generally, from a spiritual perspective, everybody, your spirit team saying, no, that's now not a safe zone for you. They're actually the ones putting that block there.
Yeah.
Because whether or not it would be something that you're not prepared to deal with, that you don't even realise, whether or not that's something that could be detrimental to your own well-being, they're going to protect you. Whether or not you know who they are or whatever, they will do that for you, particularly if you are open and you're working. You know, I was talking to Mark Richardson. I did an interview with Mark Richardson, and he said he has Tommy and he has another guide. I think it was Bartholomew. I think that was the guy's name, the spirit guy's name. And he said, when he comes in, I know I've got to get out.
Oh, really?
Because, yeah, he actually said that on his show. He said, it doesn't come in often because there's not a lot I can't deal with. He said, but when he does, when that guy steps forward, I know that that's time for me to go.
Yeah.
I think that happened at Fort Halstead. I think he had an incident at Fort Halstead that he said there was one room in particular, and this other guide came in, and he was like, right, no, that I'll take note from my spirit team. So if you're not as connected as someone like Mark Richardson, who works incredibly closely with his guides, they'll actually put like an invisible barrier, like a glass barrier or a curtain or something. So you literally can't do it. You can't go that way.
We basically, what ended up happening was, what I found interesting is we were walking in both times. We've walked in, we've got so far, and physically we just could not move our legs.
Yeah.
We couldn't go forward. So we just kind of stood there going, we can't.
Yeah, no, it's just like, no way you're going in
we
that.
Can't, so we'll just turn back and wait out here for you.
Yeah. I mean, the other school of thought is not so much that there's like a negative or a demonic entity down there. It could be that there's just no reason for you to be down there. They're trying to guide you in the right direction. So they'll block your pathway for that. It's a bit like, you know, if you are learning a new pathway and you keep coming up against blocks all the time, you do start thinking, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not supposed to be working in this way, you know, for whatever reason. And then you go, okay, well, fine, I'll take that on board and I'll try a different way. And the different way may actually get you to your destination quicker. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, it only ever happened to me twice. And once was in Liverpool, once was in Nottingham. They were months and months apart. Yeah. It was actually, I can laugh about it now, but at the time, you're kind of standing there going, well, we can't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, what the hell? Yeah.
What do we do now?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. It's not often it happens. And sometimes they'll let you go through an experience to teach you a lesson.
So do you rely quite a lot on your spirit guides?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I'm not a medium. I say this all the time. I cannot sit there. I cannot sit there and say... But having said that, right at the beginning of my spiritual journey, and this is going back pre-paranormal, when I very first started working with crystals and minerals and stuff like that closely, when I literally took that first step onto that pathway, I thought, okay, what is it I want to get out of this? And I did not want to go down the healing route, the physical healing route at all. That has no interest to me at all. I don't know why, it just hasn't. And also, I'd been through the usual psychic circles and been to healers and stuff. And the more I'd sort of seen healers, the more they'd looked so ill themselves. You know, I'd seen some really horrible illnesses that healers had got. And I thought, I don't want that. I haven't got the time or the energy for being ill because I've spent all my time physically healing someone else. So I said, right, spirit world, I do not want to do physical healing. That is not my bag at all. Yeah. I do not want to get up on a platform in front of a crowd of people because I, believe it or not, now this is something that will probably surprise you, I get really bad anxiety if I have to stand up in front of a group of people and talk. Right? Now, bearing in mind, I'm talking at 2 paranormal conventions this year coming.
Exactly.
I know. This is actually, I I know. I had a client come round the other day and we were talking, and because she's got her own spiritual path, and we were nattering away, and she'd come round to look at some crystals she wanted, and we were talking. And she went, "Do you remember 2 years ago you said to me, like, you can't talk in front of, like, massive groups of people?" And I was like, yeah. And of course I start laughing, don't I? She went, "Isn't it funny?" She goes, "That now you're doing like 2 paranormal conventions, big convention, you know, like quite big ones."
Yeah.
And she said, and there's going to be more than like 5 or 6 people. Because like this year I've done more workshops. I've done a few workshops at some of the events I've done. And that was bad enough. And now this year they've really got me putting myself out there. And I kind of like a bit of a barrier, which is why I love radio. You know what I mean? Because it's like I'm just sitting here talking to you. I'm not thinking about people who are listening so much. You know what I mean? I hope they enjoy the shows, don't get me wrong. And I hope that we put out really, really good shows for people. But I don't focus on the listening base. I focus on the conversation I'm having at the time. Yeah. You know.
What I've actually got in my head, I mean, like you saying that you're not thinking about people listening, I've just completely forgotten they were there. Sorry.
I mean, even though we have a chat room, and some nights that chat room is going crazy, and some nights it's not. You know, or people listen to it as a podcast. Once it's done, I don't worry about it. But to stand there and actually see people's faces and see people's reactions scares the life out of me, and I get really bad anxiety about it. And then, of course, like we started laughing. She goes, "I can't actually believe you agreed to do it." And I said, "I know. Hi, Jay. He's my co-host in America. He's listening."
I know. I'm looking at the chat room. I know.
Oh, hi, Carl. So, you know, oh my God, people are listening. Now I'm getting scared. No, I'm joking. But you know what I mean? It's a different thing. But to get up in front of a group of people, I actually get really bad anxiety about that. So this year coming, 2018, for me, is really going to be pushing my fear barrier. Because the only thing that ever holds anybody back is your own personal fear barriers. And to break through those fear barriers, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Yes, I'm a really strong believer of that. And yes, it is painful, and yes, it is scary, and yes, it will cause you anxiety, and yes, you'll have self-doubt, and yes, you'll have all of those horrible things come to you, because that's human nature. You know what I mean? But it's your inner strength that pushes you through. It's your inner strength, that core of courage that go, no matter how scared I am of this, I am going to do it. And
do you know something? Anyone who knows me knows I do not like forests. I'm sorry, I don't like them. There's too many places for people to hide, and it's that simple. So,
oh no, I love a forest or a wood in the middle of the night. I have to say, I feel very at home.
Doncaster Woods is literally 5 minutes from me, and I've got into the habit of going a walk in the woods. Yeah. But I'm actually going on a full investigation in July, and I'll be camping the whole weekend in Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah, you're going to Rendlesham. I've been to Rendlesham Forest. It's an interesting place.
I don't like it. It's a forest.
But you have to do it. Because once you've done it, you're going to be so empowered within yourself, and it will not ever hold the fear it had in the first place. I'm not saying you get over it straight away, but the next time someone says, "Do you want to do an investigation in a wood?" you aren't going to be like, "Oh God, you know, I've never done it." If you don't do something, how do you know whether you can or not? I remember the very first radio show I did. Oh my God, I'm going back an awful long time. I was being interviewed by a guy called Mickey Gokul on something called NLPI Radio, and he had heard about my work with crystals in the paranormal field and wanted to interview me. Oh my God, the state I was in before that show. I was meditating, breathing, I was like sweaty, I was like panicking, really, really was having a...
Kind of like I was the other week when you said, "Oh, you're starting tomorrow."
Yeah, basically. And then sort of like, so I did that interview. He interviewed me, and then he said, "Would you and Kerry Ann, would you like your own show?" And that's where my radio journey started. And I remember those first few shows Jesus. The research side, no problem. Got that down. You know, Kerry Ann's a fantastic researcher. I got better at it over time. And we would put out really good shows. And then I got my own show. And then NLPI shut down for a little while. Oh, it shut down completely. And then I came to Parasearch. And, you know, literally the fear factor has gone now, because obviously, I mean, if I get a guest that I don't feel I can handle because they're too intelligent, what I class as more above my intelligence level. I mean, I did Cal Cooper the other night. I was worried about that because I was thinking, this is like a PhD doctor guy. Do you know what I mean? I can only read certain amounts of what he's done without buying all the books and cramming them into a week, which would never have happened. So I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to cope with this? But it's when you take out your factor, all you're doing is giving people breadcrumbs to tell what they do. So you just guide the conversation. And when you get your head around that it's great. I love that interview. Completely different from some of the other interviews I've done. Incredibly fascinating, the work that's being done behind the scenes that no one ever gets to hear about. Do you know what I mean? Research that's going on at what I would class as like the academic levels on sci research and stuff like that. It's phenomenal. It's so interesting to me. And I'm just blessed I've been given the opportunities that I've been given, both spiritually and on, you know, a media, I suppose, media front, to actually do the work I love to do. I absolutely love to do it. And there's not one aspect of my paranormal, spiritual, crystal work that I don't like to do. There's not one aspect I don't. I don't always get the time I need to invest in it. And there are times where I have to step back completely and go, no, I need a rest now. I need to give my brain space. Do you know what I mean? Because to breathe and take care of me, because, you know, you're important too.
Sometimes you do need to take a break, though.
Hence why we're having a break over Christmas, because I think I've hit burnout. I consider myself incredibly blessed in regards to my work. I really do. It's been fantastic.
Well, do you know what? I did a little bit of counting before we come on the show.
Right.
And so far as I've counted, do you know how many shows you've done this year?
No idea. A lot, I would say.
164.
What, 164 shows?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Girl, I think you've earned your break.
I think I have. Yeah, gosh. Oh my gosh, that's just radio.
Yes.
Bloody Nora.
You worked really hard.
Oh my word. Yeah.
Never mind all the handhold. I have got to say this. Kerry has literally held my hand the whole time I've sat there going, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You're fine.
There you go. There's my empowerment coming in there.
But she did get sneaky at the end and then just announced to me in the Wednesday afternoon, oh, by the way, we've got your jingle and your show starts tomorrow night, and then disappeared on me. And I thought,
I went to work. Because I have a day job too. I actually had to go to work. I was trying to sort out the Thursday night show. And the KTPF has sort of like come to an end, really. We'd sort of played out as many shows as we could. And I was like, well, Andy, what am I going to do then if you've got no show? He went, well, I've got Kaz's jingle ready. And I was like, right, Kaz, you're on. And she was like, oh, what? I was like, it's fine. I'll do the studio for you. So you don't worry about the tech side of that. I can do that for you. But all you got to do is get on air and start interviewing and talking and doing what you want to do. And she's done amazing. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Do you know what? I really couldn't have done it if you weren't fucking guiding me through it, honestly. Really, if I didn't have that whole run up to it, I wouldn't be able to do this now. But, I mean, 164 shows. That's a lot of shows.
That's an awful lot of shows. Yeah. Oh my God.
Plus you're working, plus you're raising boys, plus you're doing your spiritual work, you're doing your crystal work. So when do you actually sleep?
I don't sleep an awful lot. I average 4 to 5 hours a night. I go through periods, actually. I go through times where I have complete insomnia, where I have 2 or 3 hours, and then I have other times where I sleep like 8 or 9 hours a night. So at the moment, I'm averaging about 4 or 5 hours a night. But
I think I'm roughly the same, but...
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, if I'm at home, as long as the house is sorted, the boys are sorted. My boys are getting older as well. I mean, I will say this. They're not babies, you know what I mean? They're pretty self-sufficient. And I just have to shout instructions, really, like, dinner's ready, or run your bath, or, you know, and they do it. And then we'll have, once a week, we'll have like a 3-hour time when nobody is allowed on tech, because I'm just as bad for this. I'll be like doing hoovering and then think, and then come down and get on the computer, and that's 3 hours later. Do you know what I mean? And then I can't moan at them when they're on their Xbox for that amount of time. Do you know what I mean? So it's everybody's tech down, and then we'll blitz the house as a family, because we all live in the house, we all make the mess. They hate me when I go on one of them. We've got to do one Saturday. And so, I mean, I'm no Stepford wife. Whenever I meet anybody new, I always go, that's what I say. Don't expect a Stepford wife, because 9 times out of 10, I'll put dinner on, forget about it, and then it'll burn. Do you know what I mean? Because I'll get sidetracked doing something else. So, you know.
Do you know what you need to do? I think what we need to do is I need to send you Olivia. My Olivia loves cleaning.
If I could afford a cleaner, that's kind of what I would do. I mean, that's the only other thing I want to manifest next year is more money. I need to manifest more money for myself.
I've seen us on a Sunday. I mean, come on, Sunday. It's lazy Sunday. Everybody gets to have a lie-in on Sunday.
Well, I don't know about lying, but you know.
I've seen literally waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and thinking, why can I hear the washing machine? Who the hell is downstairs at this time? And you go downstairs and she's literally mopped the kitchen floor and done this and put a washing on. You need Olivia. You need an Olivia.
Yeah, I need an Olivia in my house. I definitely do. And then, or a house husband that can come and just do all that stuff for me and let me get on with my work. That would be brilliant. That'd be amazing. And if you had like a 5-figured sum to finance me too, that'd be even better. But I think I might be expecting a little bit too much on that front. I think I might, you know.
Just send it out to the universe and ask them to send it back to you and see what happens.
I have, trust me, I have. And so far, they've not really fulfilled that requirement for me, to be fair. But the thing is, with it, is I do so much work. I'm really busy, and I don't know if that would work. I don't know. You make time for somebody, I know you do, but it can be very restricting. And at the moment, I like doing what I do. Do you know what I mean? I do like doing what I do. I wouldn't say no if the right person came along, don't get me wrong. But
I have my own thoughts on that regarding you, but I won't go into that on air.
Okay, well, maybe you'll tell me off air. But,
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah, tell me off air, okay. And I find that I get so involved. I get incredibly involved, involved sometimes with people, not just relationships, but, you know, friends and stuff like that. I kind of like get so, like, if I become in your life, you've got me in your life. Do you know what I mean? And I will do everything I can to help manifest stuff for you and empower you and stuff like that, you know, and I do that for a lot of people, just not just clients, but paranormal people and mentoring and stuff like that. I love to do that. But sometimes I do too much. I give too much, you know, and I need to learn not to quite do that so much. So like when I'm working spiritually, I will throw myself at it 100% and, you know, work really, really hard. And I'll do that with everything. So I work really hard at every single thing I do, whether that be a day out for the boys or whether that be, you know, my day job, which is customer services, by the way, believe it or not, helping people, shocker, whether or not that's, you know, on the radio, doing research, whether that's private investigations, public investigations, whether that's, you know, clients on a one-on-one, whatever it is, you know, I throw myself at it 100%. So it's hardly surprising I get burnt out occasionally. And I am literally, I mean, you can hear I'm full of cold. So I've got another show to do later on tonight on Paramania.
Exactly.
With Jay and Teresa and David, and we're having a look back at some of the shows that we've done over the last year with them. Yeah. This is where our suddenly start going, oh my God, yeah, I spoke to that person. Oh my God. Oh, you know, like, and, oh yeah, do you remember when they said that? And then we're doing the same thing on Friday. We've got yourself, we've got Mark, we've got Paul in the studio. Penny's ill herself, so she's not able to do it. And Andy Mercer's gone on holiday. How dare he go on holiday, is what I say.
Yeah, he's got on a plane and left us.
He's just shot off into the sunset. So it's the four of us on the air tomorrow night, and we're going to have...
That'll be good.
We were going to do a quiz, but you and Paul are awful at quizzes.
Yeah.
You're really bad. So it'd just be Mark answering questions, and quite frankly, he's got a big enough head as it is. So I thought, no, what we'll do... Bless him. I love Mark Manley. He's one of my best friends, and I adore that man, even though he does shout aliens quite a lot at me on a Friday. Yeah. And Jay. Sorry, and Jay's in as well. I'd forgotten. Jay's available. So, yes, and Jay. Jay's coming in as well tomorrow as well. So there's the five of us, sorry. Normal time, Jay, 9 p.m, you know. Reading the chat room there. So we're going to have a look back at some of the shows that we've done. He will probably feel Mark Manley's... but, well, the pair of them will just start shouting aliens at me, I'm sure. So, but that's what we're going to do tomorrow, and just finish the year off, really. And then we're back on the 2nd. We're back on the 2nd of January for another year ahead of us for Parasearch.
So what are you expecting for you in 2018?
I've started writing, believe it or not, and see, this is out of my comfort zone big time. I've started writing a book.
Go for it.
I've actually started a book.
Yay!
Which people have been telling me to do for ages.
Yes.
It's more the spiritual way, empowerment and self-belief and stuff like that in regards to crystals. Yeah. I'm going that route. But it does, as I say, it does cross over a little bit into the paranormal. But it's very early stages, and I'm sitting down and started writing a book. I want to do... I've also approached one of the local spiritualist shops to do... some bigger workshops as well. Yeah. This is all in preparation for the paranormal conventions that I've got coming up as well next year. I continue.
You're a guest speaker at Parasearch, aren't you?
Paraforce. Yeah, I'm a guest speaker at Paraforce, and I'm also a guest speaker at Living Paranormal Parafest.
Really?
Yeah. I've got a couple of other projects on the go. As well as my normal investigating and, stuff like that. So I've got another incredibly busy year ahead of me, which I'm really, really looking forward to, which is why I now need this time now for a break to recharge the batteries. And I'm going to sit and eat chocolates and get back up to a healthy weight, because I'm not even at a healthy weight at the moment. Honestly, I'm skin and bone at the moment, everybody. I really need some self-care. I really need some self-care. And watch crap TV.
Yeah.
And Paul Rook keeps taking on shows about films, and half of the films I've never seen. It's so funny. He goes, we'll do a Stephen King. We did a Stephen King special. Yeah. And I was like, I don't think I've seen any of these films. He was like, no, you'll be fine. No, Paul, I'm the wrong presenter for that show. And somehow we pulled it off. And then, Tuesday, we did the top 50 Christmas films. And I'm thinking, I don't think I've seen hardly any of these. And actually, the ones I had seen were really, really old black and whitey type or early Technicolor ones. Do you know what I mean? Like the Bing Crosby ones.
It's a Wonderful Life and all that.
Yeah, things like that. It was so funny. Yeah. It was like... we're so different in regards to our film choices. But... Right,
I've got one final question for you.
Oh, right, okay.
Before I let you go, you've got to tell me your funniest paranormal story.
Oh, my God. My funniest paranormal story. I should have been prepared for this, shouldn't I? I think we was at Fort, Coal House Fort.
Yeah.
And... I'd had a phone call, and I wasn't very happy about the phone call, and I got myself into a bit of a temper tantrum.
Okay.
And about it at the time. Now I look back and I think, oh my God. Anyway, I've gone out into the courtyard to take this phone call.
Yeah.
2 funny things, exactly the same place, same night, right? And I've gone, top of my voice, I used the C word, right?
Yeah.
Didn't realise how echoey this place was, right? And this word, as I literally echoed around the whole fort, and then you could see all members of the team from various locations coming out to look at me, and I'm stood there with my phone going, I'm fine, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that, everybody. I'm so sorry, because I started giggling, and that sort of diffused that one. And the other one was, again, the same night. We was at a coal house fort, and I was walking down the tunnel, and I'm quite fearless. Nothing bothers me in the field. Do you know what I mean? Like I walk down a dark tunnel in the middle of the night on my own, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm walking through the tunnel. Mark Manley jumps out at me. I used a few choice words on that one as well. And he says it's the only time he's ever made me scream. And I went, I didn't scream. I swore at you a lot. He went, nah, you let out a little scream. Because everyone knows I'm quite fearless. So, yeah. That was quite amusing as well. But, yeah, it was... there's been a few little incidences that are quite funny.
Do you know what? We need to write a book about these things.
Oh,
Or do a bloopers video or something. It'd be so funny.
Yeah, the bloopers of the paranormal bloopers. Yeah, that would be good.
Ideal.
Yeah, wonder if anybody would buy it.
Well, Kerry, thank you so much for letting me turn the tables on you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I always get nervous when I talk about myself. I'm so used to talking about everybody else, so I get quite nervous when it's about me.
Do you know what? What can we say? 164 shows.
That's an awful lot of shows.
That's a lot of shows. Plus your work, plus your spiritual work, plus your crystal work, raising boys and running a job and a house. Do you know what? You really need to give yourself more credit, girl. You really do. But thank you so much for letting me turn the tables.
You're very welcome.
And thank you to anyone who is listening. And we will be back next week. I'll be back next week. No, I won't. I'm off next week.
Yeah, we're all off next week. We've got one more show on Parasearch to do. I've got one more show on
enthusiastic about that.
Yeah, I've got Paramania to do later. I've got tomorrow night's Parasearch show with you guys. And then that's it. We've got a week off.
A week off.
A whole week off. I'm sure I'll get you all working somewhere in the middle of that, though. I don't know if I can. I don't know. Maybe I'm addicted to doing radio. I don't know.
Oh, you're good at it. You're really good at it.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyway, please remember to follow Parasearch Radio on YouTube, Twitter, and of course the Facebook page. And I will be back after the holidays. Well, no, I'll be back tomorrow night, but I'll be back after the holidays on this show. So thank you for listening. Good night. Say good night, Kerry.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.